Welcome back, Kimberly.
And today I'm going to be telling you the story about how I told my parents that Cameron was pregnant.
So, before I even got pregnant, there was a little bit of drama between me and Landon's family that had happened, causing them to not like me and causing Landon to have to lie about us being together. So he would tell his parents that he was going to his friend's house, he would go to my house. It was a whole thing. So when he told them that I was pregnant, keep in mind that they had no idea that we were even dating. So if you're kind of confused about this story and want a little bit more context, click right here and it should explain it all. So when I found out I was pregnant, we found out together, and we had decided not to tell my parents until I got back from Florida. So I went on vacation to Florida with my family, and they ended up finding out during that time that I am pregnant. I'm not the one who ended up telling them, it was my sister. I'm going to make a whole video about that, but that's for another video. So while we were in Florida, my parents kind of fell in love with the place, and they found a house here and decided that we would be moving here. And of course, as someone who just found out she's pregnant and has a boyfriend who lives in Texas, that's obviously really hard news to hear that I wouldn't be raising my baby with my boyfriend. Obviously, if we moved away from him, we wouldn't be together as much. So that was really hard, and especially finding out all these life-changing things within the matter of 2 weeks. First that I'm pregnant, then that I'm moving. So it was just really crazy. And then obviously that added a whole lot of stress to my pregnancy and us telling his parents, because not only did we have to tell his parents, we had to try and convince them to let him move in with us to Florida. So my parents tell me that we're moving, I'm crying, I'm saying I'm not moving unless Landon comes with me, and they tell me when we get home they're going to help Landon tell his parents, and they're going to do whatever they can to get him to be able to come in and live with us. So we get back and it's time for Landon to tell his parents, and he just keeps procrastinating it. Every single day he's like, I'll tell them tomorrow, I'll tell them tomorrow. And eventually, after about a week of that, we got him to tell his parents. So he typed down a big paragraph to his dad.
Yada yada yada, Cameron's pregnant.
Yeah, and he asked for help from his dad to help him tell his mom. His parents are divorced. So not only did he have to tell his parents, he had to tell his step-parents. So that's telling like 4 important people in his life all in one night. So that's kind of a lot.
The moment I had texted my dad, he had called me right away afterwards, telling me to go back to my mom's house and wait for him to get there so that we can have a family discussion. So after he had hung up on the phone with me, he called my mom right away, said that Landon just texted me and said that Cameron is pregnant. I am on my way from Dallas to come up there and we need to have a family discussion. I go home and my mom's waiting for me, and she's like, you need to sit down and wait for your father to get here. And so that's what I did, and he, took about 30 minutes because he lives in Dallas. So just sitting there awkwardly, looking at my mom. She doesn't really want to say anything to me yet because she's waiting for my dad and my stepmom. And so my dad gets there and he's got a lot to say. First his reaction was like, what are you thinking? How did this happen? When did this happen? I thought you weren't even seeing her. Is this even your child? Do we need to get a paternity test? This is a huge deal if it is your child. You need to get a job, you need to finish school, you need to do this, that. And so that was his first reaction, just like stepping into the door. And so they sit me down, everybody kind of talks, my dad and my stepdad and my stepmom, and everyone's just kind of talking, just trying to figure out what's best for me in this situation and what do I need to do. So after that, a whole discussion with me and my family, they wanted Cameron's parents to come over and talk because they wanted to straighten things out with them.
Yeah, I was with my parents actually when they called. We knew that Lena had just told his parents, so I'm sitting there with my parents just super nervous. My parents were trying to like calm me down, distract me. My fate's about to be determined. Is Landon gonna come live with us? So I'm just sitting there super nervous, and then their phone rings and it's Landon's parents calling. So they asked him to come over, and I'm like, what about me? Do you want me to come over? Like, it's my kid. They're talking about, you know, my kid's future, and of course Landon's future as far as him moving or not. So of course I wanted to be there and be a part of that conversation, but they said, look, Landon's not even invited to this conversation. It's just gonna be us adults talking. So my parents headed over there, and it was the 6 of them: my mom, my dad, Landon's mom, Landon's dad, but Landon's stepmom, and Landon's stepdad. Yep. And then they kicked Landon out of the room, but of course he was eavesdropping around the corner, and I was on speakerphone. We were both just listening to the conversation. Landon overheard that his parents said absolutely no way, he's not moving to Florida. So at that point we both had just started breaking down, like crying. It was a very traumatic night for us. But yeah, from what I heard afterwards, from what my parents told me, they discussed a lot of things. They discussed, of course, first of all, is it Landon's kid? Because as far as they knew, we weren't even together. And I knew and Landon knew that there was no question about paternity at all. But you know, they were questioning that. And they were saying that we don't want to get too attached and drawn into the situation until we know for sure.
Which I don't blame them. I mean...
Yeah, I get it, you know. They also discussed, of course, if Landon's going to be moving. And like I said earlier, they just said absolutely not. There's no way. He needs to finish school. And I definitely feel like we both kind of needed that time apart. You know, looking back on it, it was a time for both of us just to really grow. I was pregnant. I just needed to be by myself and really grow and be ready to be a mom. He needed to get ready to be a dad, and we just kind of needed to do that separately. So it was hard doing long distance, but I think it's what we needed at that time.
Yeah, I feel like it's made us a lot stronger in our relationship.
Anyways, so they had a good 4-hour conversation. They came home, and my parents officially told me, you know, Landon's parents are right. They kind of agreed with them that they don't think Landon should come and live with us in Florida. They said that just because we're pregnant doesn't mean that we're automatically adults and that we should be shacking up and living together, and that would be inappropriate. A few weeks after that night, I took a paternity test, and of course the results came back saying that Landon was the dad. And 2 weeks after that, I moved to Florida, and we left.
And then begins long distance and working at Papa John's.
Yeah, and then that's just kind of where our life went from there. And after Collette was born, everything was totally different. Any negative feelings that me and his parents had towards each other was completely gone at that point. I spent my whole pregnancy really regaining their trust after what happened.
Yeah, everything's good.
Everything's good now, and it was just really weird looking back on that night because it was just such a big night in our lives.
Lots of intense feelings.
Yeah, and it's weird looking back now that our life is just so different and so much better, and just,
yeah,
you know, we were just so scared of the future, and now we've made it to the future, and we're like, it's not that bad. We're good, we're fine. So yeah, that is how Landon told his parents that I was pregnant. That pretty much wraps up today's video. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed. Wait, that's not even my outro anymore. What's my outro?
Thank you for watching.
Or, no, it's thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video,
yes.
Emily. Okay. Bye.
Are you listening to me? Are you listening?